In the earliest days of electricity, independent North Carolina towns found ways to create their own electricity and light their own streets. As those towns grew, they made electricity an integral part of their lives. They restored power when nature's fury had shut it down. They kept pace with the improvements in technology. And today, they are still as fiercely independent and dedicated to providing their communities with locally controlled power. They are public power, and they are lighting their own way. The year is 1889, only 24 years after the Civil War ended, and 12 years before the first automobile would be mass-produced in the United States. A new, revolutionary technology is sweeping the country. Everyone is talking about the marvel, the miracle of electricity. As early as 1880, a town in the Midwest had lit up their own courthouse square with electric lights that folks said could be seen from 20 miles away. Thomas Edison started providing power to New York City in 1882. Soon, cities and towns throughout the nation were finding ways to light their streets. In North Carolina, private power companies were formed to do just that. And starting with Raleigh in 1885, the big cities in North Carolina began to get electricity. But what about the smaller cities and towns?
No one was interested in providing power here. Generation of power was not dependable. The miles of line for the number of customers just made the return on the investment almost impossible.
Nobody wanted a small town, a small community. If you didn't do it yourself, you just sat back and had to wait until somebody said, oh, that may be profitable to provide some service in that community. But that was going to be a long time down the road.
The small towns of North Carolina don't want to wait. They want the benefit of this amazing new technology right now. And in 1889, Statesville becomes the first North Carolina town to build its own city-owned electric system.
At the time, there was no other way to do it. They actually purchased a steam generator, and it was first fired by wood. They had to construct a system. They had to put up the poles and the wires. They had to put up the street lights.
Statesville was the first, but many towns across North Carolina followed soon after, like Edenton, Fayetteville, Laurinburg, Concord, Rocky Mount, Greenville, and Morganton.
When they first put the lights in on Morganton, I can remember, I thought it was a great business. It looked awful good.
Of course, we were excited about it. It made a lot of difference in a lot of ways. You were able to do more things.
It was a natural that the cities provide power to the small towns. It was a good deal for the industrial and commercial and business leaders of the community, because it meant that they were going to be able to electrify, and that progress would take place.
Electricity was first used for streetlights, but soon it was lighting businesses and homes. Electricity began to change the lives of North Carolinians in ways they found miraculous.
Well, it was like a God-sent miracle. You didn't have to get up in the morning to make fire. You didn't have to go in the kitchen to clean out the stove and build a fire to cook breakfast.
People in the county was amazed at it, you know. They were getting uptown getting that power. Before we got it, you couldn't see at night hardly for the lamps. It would be just shadows like. We finally got power. One light bulb in each room, one outlet in the whole house, and a 25-watt light bulb.
And look at it and just wonder, how in the world can this come in the house? We saw it on the street, but to have it in the home was wonderful.
We had the first electric stove in Laurinburg. People came to look at it. See, and asked my mother how it worked. Now, she wouldn't let the old stove go for a long time. So it was still sitting there, the old black wood stove, right side of the new electric stove.
I remember our first Christmas tree with electric. See, we used to put candles on it. And we had, when my mother turned that on, oh, That was Santa Claus right there for us. We didn't want anything else, just to sit and look at those beautiful lights.
In the 20th century, as North Carolina grew, the need for electricity grew. Private investor-owned electric companies and public city-owned electric departments grew too. In 1935, there were 80 public power towns in North Carolina. By this time, many of these towns had stopped generating their own power and were buying it at wholesale rates from the private companies. But the towns still put up their own power lines and streetlights, operated the substations, made repairs, and sent out the bills. The towns had local control over their electric systems, and most of them found that to be a great benefit to the community.
I would imagine that our forefathers here in Statesville realized that having their own distribution guaranteed them a certain amount of control over the transmission, which they felt like they would not have if somebody else were doing it. Who knows this community better than the people that live here, the people that serve here? And that's a sense of control that I'm not willing to give up, particularly now that I have it and have had it for 113 years.
And it was not just the city leaders who wanted that local control. The citizens of the towns liked it too.
If they see something they don't like, they have the control. You know, they can go to city council, they can get things changed. Customers come to us and say, why don't you adopt a rate that looks like this? And we have done that. And, you know, with a big utility, a big investor owned, that's probably not going to happen.
If you have a problem with your power, you can go right to the top. You can call the mayor up.
Anybody who needs to call me can call me. And they do. They can come right over here and pay their bill. There's somebody here.
We're all local people, and we are able to work with the people close to. And that's the closeness that we have by being able to be our own power source. Those people know us, and they know us like a family.
It gives the community flexibility. There are things that our electric department does, little things, small things, but they mean a lot to a community. Things like just putting a flagpole up or putting a flag back on a pole.
At Christmas time, we can take our department and we can help out downtown. We put up Christmas decorations. But more than that, when you have the local people here and you have that tragedy or you have that need, you know that they're responsive, and it's the people that you know. And there's a tremendous comfort with that.
Public power towns faced their share of disasters over the years. Tornadoes, hurricanes, ice storms, floods. And here again, that hometown spirit served them well.
I believe it was 1938 that tornado struck Wandsworth. It also struck Eden.
Everything was cracking and breaking around you and so forth. Of course, and the wind blowing and the rain coming down, we stayed out there basically all night. Put it up, next thing you know, be back on the ground again because another tree fall.
We worked 5 straight days getting trees and things like that. We accomplished the job without calling in other help.
You might think at first, because we are a small utility, that we can't respond as quickly as a large utility, but actually the opposite is true. Our linemen all live in the community. When there is an outage, we have people who respond literally within 5 to 10 minutes.
Whether they were recovering from disasters or just finding ways to provide better, more cost-efficient services, public power towns have always been able to put the needs of their communities first.
It's partly about control. I mean, we control the system, but I think mostly it's about people. It's about being able to serve people. It's not about profits.
Working for an investor-owned utility, your focus is always on the bottom line and returning dividends to your shareholders. That's who you really work for ultimately, is the people who own the stock in the company. Working for a public power, the money that the utility does generate comes back into the community. You're working to earn a return to your citizens, both through better service and through reduced operating costs. It's wonderful that you're not driven by always having to earn a dollar, but more driven by what's right for your customers.